help me here, because if I'm right, the Whites Ferry Road that exists here at Whites Ferry Road started in either 1959 or 60. About 4 years later, in 64, is when the dream and the efforts to start World Radio, which is the core part of spreading the gospel to every nation in their own language of one kingdom. Then it was a few years later, y'all moved here, and when was that? When was that date?
It was in 1969 that we moved down.
And what was the reason for your move here?
Well, do you want to know what it is today or what we thought it was at that point in time?
Both.
At that part in time, we thought we were being punished. We had spent so many years in Searcy and had our life at Harding Academy, growing up with our friends, and our parents told us one day we were coming down to visit, and came down to Bill and Margaret Smith's house and spent a weekend, and found out after this weekend that this is where we were going to be spending our next year in school.
Wow.
And so we thought of it as punishment at first. Mom and Dad thought of it as an opportunity to do what the two of them had always wanted to do, which is serve God.
That's right.
Wow. Your dad came here, not knowing why. What did they bring him here for? When Alton actually contacted him, Bill and Alton, and they had a dream that they wanted to start a school of preaching. Okay.
And while Dad was not a preacher, he had grown up as a football coach, a baseball coach, and administrator. They wanted somebody to be the director of the school of preaching. And so they offered him the position if he would come down and help get the school started. And that's the reason that he made that decision.
I Googled Carl Allison, and there's a Wikipedia page on your dad. And it's because of his athletic success and prowess that he had. Did you ever think, why didn't he go that way? That's fame and fortune. And here we are in West Louisiana being a minister.
I didn't think about it then, but later on in life, I did ask him, why? And did you regret it? Now, I was thankful he had not, but he was like, I never regretted it. He said, in every part of my life, including choosing ministry over fame and fortune, he said, God had a hand in it. And he said, your mother and I always believed that, and we followed his path. So I was like, okay, then, that's awesome.
I wasn't very supportive back then because, we had just come back from being a coach at the University of Oklahoma, and I thought that was going to be our life, which was great for me as his oldest son who loved sports. And then we got back, and he was another 5 years at Harding, and we were all involved. And that's all we knew is sports. That's our family growing up. He made the decision. And what's interesting about the decision to me is he never looked back. He made that decision. And it wasn't that he wouldn't, if you ask him a question, he would answer you, but he would never bring it up.
But it was that determination and grit that the people here that called you down were looking for to be a part of that preacher school. Of course, that was in 69, 70. But 10 years later, One Kingdom started the relief ministry. What do you think it was in their lives that propelled him to make the decision to go into ministry rather than to pursue? I mean, you don't have to go play professional football. You could work for the high school and make a lot more money. And then he was at Harding and head coach. He started the football program at Harding, and I think he coached baseball there as well. What is it you think that, and that's a ministry to be able to work with them, but to come here and to start his work here and become such an integral part of our church as an elder for 20, 30 years, for being in the preacher school for, I think it was 22 years at that, and then traveling around the world for One Kingdom, World Radio at the time, and doing all the stuff he did. What do you think the motivation was to immerse himself in kingdom work?
I believe truly, Dad and Mom as well, service and sacrifice were just their life. So much over the years of work. I was so blessed to get to work with him for 12 years near the end. But I saw it walked out
Mm-hmm.
every day. They loved God and they loved people so much.
Mm-hmm.
They had a compassion for people that, I want to have more of that.
Mm-hmm.
But so I believe they were totally sold out for God. And so that made them for service. And like One Kingdom was our world radio at that time was such a blessing because they wanted to share Jesus. They wanted to share that rescue that they had had.
Yeah.
And so that was they were full on. Don't you believe that was their life? I saw that.
Yeah, I agree. I think they knew Harding was a mission,
Mm-hmm.
but Harding's a mission to a specific type of person.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they saw the School of Preaching as an opportunity to multiply
Right.
their desire.
When you look at your children, when you see them acknowledge God and follow them, what are your thoughts? What are your feelings at that point?
And sometimes you take it for granted. Your kids are just your kids,
Right.
and the way they've turned out. And, in my case, and starting in your case, the grandkids that are now growing, I now have grandkids that are old enough to walk in the faith.
Wow.
And to see that next generation, that second generation behind them start to believe God and confess to God and start following His, in what He'd like them to do in life, you realize it all started years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not something that we did. It's not something my wife and I did. Quite frankly, we both believe the same things coming up, but it's the foundation she had and I had as we came into that marriage, that the kids were the important part and getting them to heaven was the important part. And so it's almost, you don't want to say it's a job well done because
Right.
it never is over.
That's right.
But you're really proud of who your children have become today.
That's awesome.
And that's me too. I am so beyond thankful that my children are walking with the Lord, and all our my mom and dad grands are. And I now see I have an 11-year-old and younger, but they love Jesus so much, more than I believe I did at that age. I don't know, but because they've been raised. And because my mom and dad, and so I can't take credit either. I'm like, it's the Lord, but I am so grateful for that legacy of faith, and I want it to go through many generations. And so, you speak life and just keep walking in the Lord.